Big
Big Mistake
Mistake
Zane.
Zane.
So again, the thing here was like, well, what would I do with Zane if I never had to worry about ammo?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're running with somebody who's running, if you're running with somebody who's running a hunk of burning Moe's build like I was running last week, you wouldn't have to worry about ammo. Now, realistically, and I'm holding the gun I'm holding, the Sandhawk, because honestly, my first thought of what I would do with Zane if I don't have to worry about ammo would actually be just to run whatever Zane build I'm already running and just put a Sandhawk on and use it all the time. That's my first thought. But if I
Not
wanted to have an
not a
actual,
bad thought. Sandhawk does good
yeah,
with Zane.
it does. I would, if I was running Chain Zane, I'd just put a Sandhawk on because I would like using the Sandhawk on Zane. It just runs through ammo like crazy. But last week when I was thinking to this, I was like, let's find a Zane build that we can bring some big guns to. And big guns we did bring. So the the gear for this build is again based on so Moxie at level 65 did this build called Bore Explosion Zane, which is a throwback to he did a whole series on guns that interact well with the eraser skill that we talked about a little while ago, which is similar to an old skill that Krieg had previous Borderlands called Bore. And what it basically did, guns that bored, they would bore in and they would explode and cause massive damage. These quote unquote pass through enemies on critical hits and pass on to another enemy and do more critical hits, whatever the case may be. That Eraser, he did a whole series called Does It Eraser based on old videos by another streamer called Does It Bore. After he did all that, he was like, hey, I'll throw a build together to make the most out of guns that Eraser. That was at level 65, and I think to his credit, I think he just kind of threw something together pretty quick to make the most of guns that Eraser. I then took that build. We're now at level 72, and I took a look at, well, what could I do to really kind of optimize it? So we are going to be running all guns that do Eraser. I'll run the Sandhawk. I would probably more run the complex route, which I also have because it erasers a lot. The Sandhawk does too. It's not either or. I just run the Sandhawk just because I already have it on. I'm going to run an Annex Jericho. I'm going to run a Creamer, and I'm going to run a Globetrotter. Now, what Negan and I discovered last week, and Negan can fully confirm this, is that several guns in this game in the heavy slot actually do friendly fire damage to one another. So that's a major problem with this build.
Yes, it
It
is.
it will kill your friends like a lot. And unfortunately, two of the guns I'm running tonight are guns that do that. The Annex Jericho and the Globetrotter. They do actually do damage to your friends. So Negan may be down a lot tonight, but he's gonna try and keep his hamster ball up.
Yeah, I am. That just stay the hell away from you. Just keep running the other direction.
Well, the problem is when and this is the whole point of this build. It will create massive chain reactions, so it'll wipe like the whole map. And
Mm-hmm.
when that happens, there's a visual effect. You'll see it on screen. The whole screen will get blurry. When that happens, there's basically damage everywhere, and there's no real escaping it. Just saying. In Moxie's build, he ran a rad suit to get full radiation immunity. You can totally do that. If you're running shock weapons, you can totally run the transformer. Instead, I went with a weatherproof revolter with 3x resistance on it because between the 3x resistance there, the resistance on the shield, I'm getting a lot of shock resistance, and then I have radiation resistance on my cut purse launch pad. I'm going to run all radiation or shock weapons, and I'm going to take a little damage, and then I'm going to become very resistant to that damage. And so I'm not fully resistant. I'm not 100% resistant. If I were running all shock weapons and had a shock resistance on here, I would be, but I'm not because I'm also running a kinetic weapon and I can't be resistant from that. So I'm getting close on both and I'm going to stay back. That's basically what I'm going to do. You have to run a hustler comm because this will allow you basically to crit off of non headshots. So damaging an enemy with non-critical hits grants Zane a stacking 25% chance of critical, or stacking 25% increased critical hit damage and a 5% chance for non-critical hits to score a critical hit, which consumes all stacks. This stacks 5 times. And in all of that, what ends up happening, which is really kind of nice, is that I'm basically I'm gonna crit off of non-critical hits, and big splashy weapons are gonna cause that to happen a lot. I'm running the It's Piss with on grenade throw. This I have on here because this is actually also gonna extinguish status effects from me. So the way this works, I can't throw grenades. I've got 2 action skills. But my gun, every so many shots, is going to spit out a grenade basically right in front of me. It's going to be an It's Piss grenade, and it's going to take any status effects off of me, and that's going to keep me partially healed. And finally tonight, running the exact same cut purse launch pad that we ran in the build last week. This you would run if you're running solo and nobody else is running a cut purse launch pad. If somebody else in your group, for example, is running Hunka Hunka Burnin' Moes, then you would not run this. Instead, you would just run a mag size and fire rate Pearl in its place. And that would work. This one does have heavy damage, area of effect damage, and radiation resistance. But you'll notice I don't have splash damage on my comm. I don't have to have it here. The reason being is what we're not actually, like, it's not about splash damage or splash damage radius. What we're looking for is a chain reaction to occur. And when the chain reaction occurs, adding additional splash damage or splash damage radius to anything does not matter. It just doesn't matter. When the chain reaction occurs, everything dies. It's almost binary. It's not like if I just had a little bit more splash damage, it would make it kill more guys. When it happens, everything's dead. Nothing's left. It's like a nuclear bomb went off. All right.
Yes, it is. All right. So you got some good guns there.
You can confirm that.
Mm-hmm.
In the skill tree, what we have going on, we have 5 going into violent speed. After killing an enemy, Zane gains increased movement speed for a few seconds. Effect stacks twice. We have Cold Bore. Zane gains increased weapon swap speed. We are going to swap weapons a lot with this. Launchers, basically. So that weapon swap speed is nice. We also get some bonus cryo damage on the first shot after swapping weapons. Well, guess what? We're using launchers. So that bonus damage is big damage, and we are going to swap, relatively frequently. Violent momentum, we're going to run around with this build just like any other build. This is going to give us additional gun damage. Even if you're just at walk speed, you get extra gun damage out of this. It's just such a great skill. Cool Hand, this is going to give us reload speed. We've got launchers. Reload speed's important. Salvation's going to give us some life steal. Again, it's sort of binary with this build. Like, I put the point in here because 1 point does help, but like, you're either up or you're down. It's kind of where it is.
You're right. You're right. It happens fast too.
You're either up or you're down. There's not a lot of difference. Seeing red, we aren't using a Seeing Dead comm, so activating an action skill automatically activates all of my kill skills. Yep, I'm going to need that. I'm not running a Seeing Dead, and I want that skill. I am going to be using a cryo cannon over the shoulder cannon, so I'm going to be using this a lot. No point in putting anything into violence. Fire rate on launchers, not all that important, but it is important to put something into Plain Dirty because launchers having an extra shot, an extra projectile. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
Tasty goodness right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra damage right there. Good Misfortune, action skill. Killing an enemy increases Zane's action skill duration. Yep, we're going to run with the hamster ball. So we want to kill enemies so that our hamster ball stays up. That is going to provide us additional damage mitigation. Death follows close. This is such a great skill. Kill skills gain increased effect and duration. It's just, the kill skills. Anybody who has played Zane knows that most of Zane's power comes after a kill. And that's why when Zane goes into fight for his life, he's usually pretty much hosed. In the red tree, we've got 5 into Praemunitus. Zane and his Digiclone gain increased mag size. We're not using a Digiclone, but additional mag size is nice, especially on launchers. Borrowed time, our action skill duration. We're going to gain action skill duration for every active action skill. Yep. That means using that cryo cannon is going to keep our shield up. And again, duct tape mod, this is going to allow my gun to shoot that It's Piss grenade right in front of me, which is going to be nice because I'm going to pick up the cleansing effect of the It's Piss taking status effects off me, which, oh, believe me, I'm going to have status effects on me. All the way down the tree here from my comm, I do have Like a Ghost, which gives me the ability to ignore bullet chance. And that is helpful in this particular case because I'm going to be pretty focused on firing big guns and I'm going to have a lot of in-between time. You know, rockets are not the fastest thing. And so during that time, if everything hasn't quite died yet, I'm going to have a lot of things shooting at me. So it's helpful. In the green tree, we gain maximum increased shield capacity. It's good. It helps. We need to stay alive long enough to fire those shots. Ready for action, we get recharge rate and recharge delay. Down here, we get brain freeze. This is going to help us slow enemies. Critical hits. Again, we're going to be scoring a lot of critical hits. It's going to slow them down. That's a good thing. Stiff upper lip. Whenever Zane is damaged, he gains damage resistance against that damage type. This again is going to help me with all the resistance skills I've got going on my shield. This just adds additional resistance. We're going to take a lot of self-dot damage on this build. Distributed denial. My barrier gains the effect of my currently equipped shield mod. Additionally, the shield effects are applied to allies near the barrier. Bonuses to Zane are reduced. This is, it's great because we had to come down here because we wanted to get the hamster ball, but we saw this last week. If you got somebody else running, again, the hunka burn Moes, and they come and stand inside the shield, you were dropping it sometimes last week when we were running the Malawan takedown. I would come in there and I would pick up the effects of the shield, which of course, since we're running a revolter, that's a lot of extra damage. And finally, the last tree that we're going all the way down, we've got the purple tree. We're going to put 5 into Deja Vu. We're not putting anything into Mana Focus for accuracy. We're firing rocket launchers. We're just going into Deja Vu. Whenever Zane kills an enemy with a critical hit, there's a chance for ammo to be added to my magazine. Well, again, our goal here is to crit a lot with big splashy weapons. Adding ammo back into the magazine of a rocket launcher is helpful, without a doubt. We've got 5 in Headman's Hand. Zane gains increased critical hit damage. Yep. We're relying on those crits, lots of them, and we want that damage to be as much as possible. Commitment. Zane gains increased gun damage and action skill cooldown rate. That's just a flat buff. Good stuff. Fugitive. Zane can sprint and shoot at the same time. Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to kind of stop a little bit when we fire rockets, but we can sprint around, which is nice. Domino effect. This one, when we score a critical hit, we're going to gain fire rate and reload speed for a short time. If score a critical hit with his action skill, he doubles this effect. Well, we're going to use that shoulder cannon a lot. And we're going to try and hit those because that's just going to give us a lot of reload speed. We've got 2 into the Art of War. This is after activating the action skill or action skill ability. My next shot fired from my weapon deals increased damage. This effect stacks. So gun damage, 6%, 10 stacks. Big guns, next shot, I'm not taking a lot of shots. It's not like I'm running around with a rapid fire weapon here. So this is valuable on this particular build. And then our most important skill here, Eraser. Zane's critical hits pierce through enemies for all weapons, dealing increased damage for every enemy pierced. Every time it pierces an enemy, it's going to create that next projectile. It gets additional action skill damage and mayhem scaling. And boy, howdy, things that chain react are crazy. And finally, our man Flint. While aiming down sights, Zane's weapons deal bonus damage and automatically apply their status effect when he scores a critical hit. Yep, we're going to score critical hits. We are always going to fire our rockets while aiming down sights, so that we always get this. Action skills here, we have the over-the-shoulder cannon, cryo, And we are going to use proliferation. And we are going to run the hamster shield so that we have a little bit of extra protection. So all around her. And we're going to go for the health regen one because, again, oh boy, are we going to kill ourselves, right, Negan?
Yes, and yes, indeed. You do fall down, trip on your own toes quite a bit.